Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I get it. There you go.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this Plan Commission meeting to order. Thursday, July 28th at 6:30. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Koenig.
Here.
Grimm.
Here.
Nellis.
Here.
Janice. Bailey.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Yates.
Here.
Forum is present.
Statement of public notice.
Has been posted.
Discussion and possible approval of Plan Commission meeting minutes from 6:30:22. Yes, Steve.
About halfway down the page where the line that starts with 5 years, we have a dollar sign in front of the 65,000. Probably should eliminate that. And then about 3/4 way down the page, the sentence that Jerry recommends $100 a day, that should be approved by village board. I would ask that that be struck from the record. That's it.
Make a motion to approve the previous minutes with those corrections.
Second. We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Citizen comments, please direct all comments to the board, not to each other. Any disruptive behavior and you will be asked to leave. Do we have any citizen comments? Yes, sir.
Hi, Dan Voss, from over at Cut and Go, 20275 West Good Hope Road. Just wanted to come down and give an update first in this month. Didn't have time to get the email over. We're working away on things. There's been some miscommunications and changes, so things are gonna take a little bit longer yet. Might see a final draft of the stormwater management plan this week. I don't know if you guys got the packets we turned in earlier this week, but we pretty much have everything except for that in the landscape plan. That's about it. So
Thank
you guys
you.
know we're working away on it.
Appreciate that.
Kelly Jensen, 20467 West Main Street. I happened to walk into a meeting at the park last month where I found Trustee Yates, Ben Woods, and the gentleman from Parkitecture. And I'm just wondering what that was all about, because I'd like to know if there's gonna be changes being done to the park and surrounding areas, so. That's it.
Thank you. Any more comments?
Oh, just about Swallow's Lawn landscaping plan that's now, oh, Michael G. Bielbauer, 19488 West Main Street. And it's just about berms across the street full of weeds. Dumpster issues with Lidsby and Oka. And they haven't completed their dog park. And every time you look out the window by Chief Crosby's, numerous times a day, just watch dogs go into the bathroom. And then because they never put a berm in, all that stuff's gonna end up running down into our yard. Even though everything's cut down, but
Rock Point Village on the south side along Jeannie Crosby and Don's.
You sit in her house no matter when you visit her, and you always see dogs. Just use, but that's what they do, you know? But they were supposed to put in a dog park. And it's not even close. And there's probably 300 people there with dogs already. I don't know the number. A lot of dogs. And their weeds are just unbelievable. It basically comes to a point of he's just a bad neighbor, you know? Just why would he do that, you know? And I talked to the guy cutting the grass today, and he says the reason he doesn't cut the berms is because the finished landscaping isn't done. He keeps wrecking his lawnmowers, so he won't cut them because of the finished landscaping isn't done. So how they even got in without that being done? And that's just from what the guy cutting the grass said, why he doesn't cut. The weeds are like 3 feet taller. I sent you guys all a package today with some pictures. So it'll be in your mailboxes. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have any more citizen comments? I have one that was turned into Brenda on 622 from Ron Esser on Highway V. About Carl Landscaping on Town Line Road. About his lights. Requesting that they be readjusted. Do you have any more comments? Okay, public hearing to consider proposed amendments to the project plans for the tax incremental districts 1 and 2 for the village of Lannon.
Would say this one, we probably want to turn over to Mr. Cameron.
That's good. I will give, if it's okay with the plan commission, I can give a brief overview of the purpose of each amendment, and then we can open it up to the public hearing. So what is being proposed is the amendments to both tax increment districts 1 and 2 within the village. Starting with tax increment district number 1, what Ben has on screen shows, thank you, Ben. The current boundary of the district, which ends at currently at Custer Lane up to the north, comes down to the south here and up, cuts across Main Street and up into the Overstone development. The territory, the purpose of the district is to add and subtract territory within the proposed boundary. This district was amended in 2021 to add additional project cost. This is the first amendment to actually add or subtract territory. One of the primary purposes for adding doing the amendment is to add this territory north of Custer Lane that is proposed for new senior housing within the village. But the other reason for considering the territory amendments and subtractions is that the village is getting close, very close, and anticipates going over what's referred to under tax incremental law as the 12% test. And statutorily, municipalities across the state of Wisconsin are limited to the amount of territory that can be included in tax incremental finance districts. And that's limited to no more than 12% of your total equalized value within the village. So when you go over that 12% test, meaning that the value of property, the incremental value over the base value of the district when it was created. So the new taxable value that was created within the district, if that exceeds more than 12% of the total equalized value in the village, you are no longer allowed to create any new tax incremental finance district or to amend an existing tax incremental finance district to add territory. So the village right now is very close to that, and with the new equalized values come out every August, and the village fully anticipates with the development that is occurring with both TID 1 and TID 2, that 12% test will be exceeded. So The known, development in the future is that senior housing, but there is also the potential for other development or redevelopment that's not currently imminent or planned for, but the potential exists within the areas on the southwestern portion of the tax increment district along and behind Main Street, as well as across the street. The existing Circle S storage facility, the potential for redevelopment may exist within the remaining life of this tax incremental finance district. This district is a mixed-use district under state law, meaning that it has a maximum lifespan of 20 years. The total period for the district would end in 2039. What's forecasted within the project plan is additional cost of upwards of $3.8 million for additional infrastructure financing up in that northern section, as well as potential additional cost for a third water source, should that be needed in the future. That's built into the plan. Again, none of these project costs are items that the village is committed to doing. It makes them eligible to be recovered through the tax incremental finance district if the board would go ahead and if development should occur within these additional areas. So that's an overview of tax increment district number 1. Then if you don't mind going to TID 2. TID 2 was also created in 2018 as a blighted tax increment district under tax incremental law. And what that means is that it has a maximum lifespan of 27 years compared to a mixed use district that has a maximum lifespan of 20 years. The existing district boundary, this district has not been amended to date, so this would be its first amendment and first territory amendment and subtraction. The existing boundary of the district is shown here going along Main Street up to and crossing over Good Hope Road. The territory that is proposed to be added is north of Good Hope Road, the area that is currently owned by Hultwest, that the potential for development into single-family homes is shown within the project plan. And then this area coming to the west, to the roundabout at Good Hope Road and Town Line Road, there's the potential for redevelopment of the We Energies substation that has been abandoned and taken out of that site. There's the potential for redevelopment in and around that corridor. So the other area that is shown here is the subtraction of property that was in the original tax incremental district boundary that was identified when the district was created as the potential for development. It is no longer assumed that that property will develop within the tax incremental finance district's life, and in keeping that in the boundary with adding the additional parcels to be added would push the district over its 12% test. So that property or those properties are proposed to be removed as part of this district amendment. The district right now has a maximum lifespan that would run out to 2046. Pre-development based on the current and planned value within the district. The district is forecasted to close in 2036, which would be 10 years earlier than its maximum lifespan. Post amendment with the project costs that are being added to it, which primarily focus around the extension of infrastructure, water primarily to the Hultwest site for the single family development to be allowed to actually develop. That the TID project plan shows that it would extend out to 2042. So certainly still within the district's existing lifespan. The other thing I'll mention, if you go back to District 1, that the Plan Commission needs to take into consideration tonight is that there are 5 properties on the very southern, southwestern edge of the tax increment district. That are proposed to be added into the TIF district's boundary. If added, they still keep the village under the 12% test, but these properties were added after the legal description was posted. So if the plan commission does move forward with the recommendation to the village board for the plan amendment approval, the recommendation would in the motion and the seconding would also potentially reference adding these properties into the amendment. And I don't know, Ben, if you have anything to add in terms of those parcels themselves.
Yeah, so later on in the planning commission agenda, you'll see a proposal from architecture that was part of the streetscape plan discussed by the plan commission at past meetings. Blake from architecture was in the village a couple weeks ago. Meet with the working group, did a scoping meeting and walking around, taking a look at that. He highly recommended incorporating these properties into the TID if there was room, just seeing that there would be a potential to do kind of, I think we referred to as a village center. Following that, trustee Yates and I followed up with Ellers, and there is indeed room in the TID to add those properties. It just wasn't previously contemplated. So the suggestion is to go ahead and add those.
That's all I have for an overview.
Thank you. What properties for them that were added? Village center.
The five, so it's the two on Landon Road immediately south. This large Geisel piece, Daubers, and this other Geisel piece.
Do you have any more discussion? Any more questions? Yes.
I'm curious why, well, I guess because I wasn't included in any of this, but I'm curious why a guy from architecture is telling us what properties we should be putting into our TIFs.
Well, I guess we're gonna do a back and forth here.
Let's get the public comments and then go after, you know.
Um,
Do we have any more comments? Yes, we are done with citizen.
Then I guess that it's a public hearing right now, so I guess then Patrick could answer that question.
So I had actually, when we first had some discussions about modifying these TID boundaries, I had actually suggested including some of these properties or the possibility of including some of these properties, just in the off chance that in the future, down the road, there was an opportunity for redevelopment and create more of a downtown kind of thing. It was presumed at the time that because of the 12% test that's been discussed a number of times this evening, that would not work from a financial and numbers standpoint, value standpoint. When I mentioned that to Blake from architecture, he encouraged us to look at that again. We did so, Ben and I and Phil from Ellers. Looked at those numbers, worked with some of Phil's team, and were able to determine that we did in fact have room in the TID to include those properties. again, it's just, it's a boundary is all it is. Doesn't mean anything's happening to these properties. It simply provides, it opens a door to things to happen, if you will. Doesn't mean they have to do anything. It doesn't affect the homeowner's rights, you know.
No. But I do have a question. If by shifting the boundary and it happens that the value itself exceeds 12%, does that create a problem
If you had
down
shipped,
the road?
well, if down the road you go over that 12% test, which we anticipate the village will in August here, it does not allow the village to create any new tax incremental district until TID 1 or 2 would close, whichever would, or both, getting them under that 12% test again. It would also preclude the village from doing any further territory addition to TID 1 or TID 2, and again, until you're under that 12% test.
They stand on their own with regard to the 12%. It 12.
Yeah, each one is independent of each other in terms of when you look at the amendment here. So it's the existing incremental value plus the base value of the properties that you're adding to the district cannot exceed 12% of the total equalized value.
And I will also say that as part of that process, each individual tax key gets identified, a value gets determined for them, that all gets put into the model and the calculation for that 12% test. And then that number gets, those properties and boundaries got determined in a, what I'll say, a conservative fashion. So just to make sure in case something weird happened, something came back valued, maybe we got a bad value on a property or something, we wanted to make sure that there was some room in there as well.
Yes, Mike.
Properties that are removing on Good Home can extend to other boundaries on Good Home. Once you're removing some property,
Some of the Barnes properties were being removed. There doesn't appear to be really a lot of possibilities. That's the impression we're getting, is that, you know, the chances of that getting developed in the near future are
it's just
slim to
speculation.
none. What's that?
20 years here. It's just speculation anyways for the future. So who knows if you guys would fight with Barnes and someone might develop it.
Well, that very well might happen, but we felt that there were better opportunities on the Hallquist property. That's an eminent development that's already gone through significant planning. So there's a much higher likelihood of that materializing than something appearing out of thin air on the Barnes property. But your point, you're correct in your assumption.
Ben?
I was just going to expand on Patrick's answer. So Barnes property here actually consists of a total of, Barnes owns 5 parcels, Blaze owns 1. So the 3 parcels right up against Good Hope Road are still in the TID. But there's, in addition to that 12% test, there's a requirement that no more than 35% of the area can be newly platted residential. And as Trustee Yates stated, with Hallquist being more imminent and Barnes having told us that they don't intend to develop this, in order to get that 35% test to work, we had to take out some of the newly platted residential on Barnes in order to add newly platted residential on the Hallquist site.
Could you explain to me what you mean by a downtown center? What would that consist of?
I really don't have any preconceived or solidified plans. I think My personal thought was something along the lines of what I believe Mr. Newman had conceptualized as well. When was that, 2 decades ago or,
A little over 10 years.
okay, 10 years ago.
Right, and before we still
Um,
are.
So,
But what would that be?
There was gonna be 5 or 6 lots that would be light office buildings. Medical centers, clinics like that.
yeah, what it would look like, I really don't know. It would require a developer that had enough interest to come in and put together a plan that the village felt good about. Obviously, with it being so central and critical to this village, I would expect it would get highly scrutinized and be subject to a lot of public and stakeholder, input. But it could be a possibility. We have a lot of growth in the village in terms of residential. The growth in residential, and that's going to push need for services and commercial, perhaps retail. That becomes a lot more attractive now to businesses now that there is a higher density of population surrounding.
Where is all of this gonna go? Where are all these businesses going to go?
Well, presumably they would go on the lots that would get probably put together into one large development, similar to what, I don't really want to say that this would be like a Whitestone Station kind of thing up in Menominee Falls, but that's basically what the developer did up there, is they took several lots, they put them together with the village, came up with a plan that the village approved, and did that whole big mixed use thing with, the Costco and the hotel and the apartments and the shops and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that's what would happen here, but that's the concept.
Do you have any more citizen comments? Any more discussion? Yes, Chris.
I just had a question. Do you know when Falk West plans on finishing up quarrying at the Cully Farm? Is there any schedule based when they're going to finish and then backfill and prepare the site?
Yeah, their conditional use permit stipulates that they had 10 years to complete whatever quarrying that they wanted, both on the existing quarry and on the Colby Farms jointly. I think that was signed at the end of 2018, so they have until approximately the end of 2020. That's to finish all their site preparedness activities as well.
Patrick, to follow up on back here, we had several developers look at it and see what we had planned. And they all said it's a good idea, but we're about 10 years early. So there you are.
Here we are. And I saw, I think Nicole actually found a bunch of your original concept drawings.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we designed a road to go through there. That was all designed. Yeah. At that time, we were going to build a new fire station back there also.
Saw that.
Yeah.
Yes, Mike.
Does anyone know if Calcos is still getting good stone? And how far they can go down for better stone? There's about 20 feet of good top stone there. There's no more for crushing. No, you don't want to be low.
No, they're just.
They sold their
taking
crushing
the
business
cream.
to Limestone. Right, I know. Yeah.
My understanding was they're primarily forking off the cream, they call it.
That's their intention, right?
Yeah, and it's, if I recall correctly from those discussions, it's been a while, but I think it was 10 to 12 acres of area that they determined to have that in, that they wanted to be able to pull that stone out, and then stone that was gonna have to be blasted out for basements and infrastructure anyway, so, that's,
And also there's wetlands on top of some of the good stones, but
right.
they weren't gonna bother.
Yeah, their delineation, they couldn't get in there and mess with that, and I think they already put in their crossing, did they not?
Yeah,
For-
crossing, the
Wetland
wetland
crossing.
stabilization. Secondary access road. or-
We have any more discussion, comments from the citizens?
Does Hopeless need to pave that drive that goes back to keep the particulates out of the sewer?
Yes.
Since it seemed to be an ordinance that everybody else had to follow.
That I'm not sure,
They did not have to pay for access roads.
the secondary one and their main one.
How do you keep the particulates out of the sewer system?
You talking about the stormwater or?
Or is it just drained away from the road so it doesn't go to the sewer? And then where would it be drained to?
According to our paving ordinance, they would have to pave the original Cauley Drive for a minimum of 200 feet into a quarry. That still exists.
Any more comments, questions? There are no more comments or questions. We close the public hearing. At 7:02. Discussion and possible action to approve resolution 2022-6 to approve amending the boundaries and project plan amendment for tax incremental division number 1.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 2022-6 with the inclusion of the 5 additional tax keys that were discussed during the public hearing.
Second.
I will say.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion?
Yes, I'd like to start out with is, I would say I'm questioning why we're adding number 8, number 9, 11, 12, 13, and 6. And 16 will be a separate comment, but I do not feel we need to add 8, 9, 11, 12, or 13. I would say no to the 2 on Lannon Road and no to the 3 on Good Hope. Those are individual properties. My understanding of TIF district is basically more like for infrastructure money and stuff like that to help the developer. These already have a sewer water agenda area, so I don't think we should give anybody an extra helping hand for the tearing something down to build something. As far as the Circle S storage, that's been there 20, 30 years. I don't see that going away in the next 20, 30 years. I don't think we should even have that in the discussion. If someone wants to do something there, let them come up with the money. I don't see all this big time planning that you all think is gonna happen over here with office buildings. There's so many buildings in the area now that are vacant that they're gonna redo in there. So I will be saying no to this plan of adding 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 6, 16, 2 on Lannon and 3 on Good Hope.
I can speak to that.
Yes, Ben.
So the first batch of properties that Mike talked about were some individual properties right here at the intersection of Lannon and Main, including, I always call it Jake's. The vacant lot between Mids and Bids and former Quarry Coffee Building, Mids and Bids itself, the Betty Ann's building, and then the dugout building and parking lot. So it's already in the TID project plan to do streetscape improvements. And based on feedback from a previous plan commission meeting about that, It sounded like there was also interest in potentially adding to the project plan the option to do some facade improvements on private property if the property owners were interested in doing so. Ellers indicated that you cannot use any TID funds to do anything on private property unless that individual parcel is in the TID. So with some of these parcels, it's pretty obvious, they're like right up to the right of way line, which is like basically the sidewalk, and then you've got the curb. So to do any streetscape type improvements, you would almost have to do some improvements on private property also. So they were added for that reason. Concerning Circle S, as I understand it, this parcel was built on fill. So you remember with Whispering Ridge Estates projects, with the Junior Schultz property, that there were some contamination issues there. One of the purposes that can be helped by using TID as a tool, as a financial tool, is if anything did happen here and there was contamination found that would make something cost prohibitive, then TID funds could help make that happen. And then as far as all the properties in between, I know you didn't bring this up, Mike, but I just want to point out the boundaries have to be continuous. You can't have little islands. So grab some properties in between in order to make those connections. Now, Patrick, forgive me if I'm putting some words in your mouth, or Don. When we talked about this with Ellers, it's understood nothing might ever happen on the Circle S property within the life of the TID. However, as John just pointed out, the village is going to be tipped out and not be able to make any more TID boundary amendments for the remaining life of the TID as of next month. So it was kind of, this is the last chance for any of these purposes to make this tool available to those properties. As Trustee Yates reiterated, it doesn't mean that things are gonna happen on these properties. It's that if you want that tool available for the potential for the remaining life of the TID, which I believe is about 15 years, 16 years, John, then they should be added now. There's quote unquote room in the TID to add them. If you don't add them, that's fine. But if something does happen, then this financial tool cannot be available to those properties.
To my knowledge, Circle S storage is currently being taken care of, updated by the children who are now in ownership of it. And the property between Mibs and Bibs and Cordy Coffee is owned by Mrs. Barissa's, and she has no plans on developing that property. She's going to hold on to it and keep it the way it is, as far as I know from the last conversation I had with her.
Yeah, that property in particular, the ARPA committee had identified maybe doing like a little pocket park or something like that. It was questioning about where could they pull funds together, et cetera. That could be the TID eligible thing, but that property would have to be in the TID if you want to use any TID resources to help fund that type of improvement.
Yes, Barry.
Talking about Circle S, more than 20 years ago, Schneider Excavating owned it. There was a 10,000 gallon diesel fuel spill on that property. That got, pretty sure it's still there.
We know if the tanks were removed at Jake's property here?
Yes.
Yes, that's.
Any more comments or questions? Mike?
Property owners, that's so safe that they're being put into a TID if they're gonna be doing work on their front property.
We're just, to put them in the boundary, we have to notice them, right? To include them in the TID boundary. Yeah, we can't just go do work on people's private property.
This when I was consulted by my neighbor from the dugout, saying that Ben Wood was trying to sell my property to her, saying that they need to put them together. And again, with Dave Bartel, it seems like the engineer is getting a little excessive, excited and doing things that are kind of beyond his need. Speaking for people that own their own property.
Yeah, I don't.
Should be discussed with the property owners before they're put into a TID or being told what you're going to do with your property, or even ask what your plans are first.
Or being told that we're leaving town. and we don't know intention of it, so,
Nobody.
Yeah, it happens actually.
Do we have any more discussion?
And we just identified the one map out of all of this that doesn't make what we're voting on.
So the closest thing that you have is going to be on page 22, with the inclusion of these here that are not, that don't have the red speckle.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
This shows the existing boundary and proposed removals and additions to the boundary.
Do you have any more questions, Steve?
So you're asking, we're gonna add that to what this was our original
Proposed amendment,
resolution
and then, yeah,
with the addition of that around.
those 5 parcels.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye, me.
Motion carried. Discussion possible action to approve resolution 2022-7 to approve amending the boundaries and project plan amendment for tax incremental district number 2.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-7 for tax incremental district number 2.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion?
Yeah, on this piece, I'm gonna say no to, we should not be including 1 and 2. 3, I was gonna take it out, but if they wanna use it for the architecture, I could see 3, but I do not see 1 and 2. That's just too far up the road. That 20 could help solve that part of the problem. So I would say 1 and 2 should not be added.
When you're when you're saying 1 and 2, are you
I'm talking
referring
about the little lots numbered 1 and 2 on Main Street and Red Hood Home.
So
on which page?
So-
Oh, gotcha.
On the added subtracted parcels, and if you print it, you have to have a magnifying glass to look at. Those are 2 little slivers, a piece of the property. As a matter of fact, the trees along 2 there on the sidewalk need to be trimmed up about 10 feet up in the air, because that's right now in violation of our ordinances on trees over sidewalks in the village. They need to cut back so you don't get hit in the forehead. Yeah.
So concerning
property number 2 there is a non-conforming lot. Like when you include all the setbacks from Main Street, et cetera, it's too small. There's not enough buildable area on it. When it comes to lot number 1, that's a vacant lot right now. Some of you may recall, it's probably been about 4 years now since Blaze purchased this property. It's the owner of Blaze Landscape and had a proposal to do some townhomes. Actually came before the plan commission. He had a layout here. And the crux was having enough turnaround room for fire trucks, things of that nature. And one of his thoughts was, would the county allow an access? If lot 20 developed on its own, would the county allow an access so close to an intersection? And if it needed to be backed up, it might have to come through lot 2 or even a portion of lot 1 to kind of get in here. So that was just the thought. Again, that's not an edict and it's not necessarily a prediction. It's just making the tool available if that were to happen.
You can try to buy it, like everybody else would have to if they wanted to, so I don't see any reason for putting that in the TID.
And I can say that the owner does not want to sell it. I can say for a fact.
One other thought here. So also already existing in the TID project plan was to do streetscape improvements at this intersection and the one out here by Village Hall. So another reason for including at least lot 2 there was just to include yet another property at the intersection, depending on what could happen.
Do you have any more questions, Mike? Nope. Comments? Any more discussion? Steve?
I tend to agree with Mike on 1 and 2. There's small enough lots that push that.
Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Steve?
I abstain.
I hate to do this, but I agree with Mike. So I vote no also. So we are 2-2.
2 to 3. 2 to 3. And 1 abstention.
I say, Mike, I go with Mike.
No, it's 2 to 3 the other way.
We can take the motion back and reform it.
Patrick has to get back.
Yeah, we can.
Yes, after.
If you want to reconsider the matter, someone who voted on the prevailing side can make a motion for reconsideration.
Make a motion to send resolution 2022-7 to the village board, tax incremental district number 2, less 1 and 2 identification lots being added. That's less 1 and 2.
Second that.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action regarding the proposal from Architecture to provide streetscape and related planning services.
To this one done, I guess. So if you recall, when the concept of doing this was brought up, we felt that it would be good to have a smaller group put together to help determine some scoping and just kind of meet with the consultant and get the process going. And then later on down the road, the idea was that we could bring in additional stakeholders from the community. So as Ben mentioned earlier, we had a meeting with Blake from Parkitecture. Went over the village extensively, went over the TID maps and some of our thoughts on some of the proposed amendments. He took some photographs, we walked some properties, we drove around and looked at some other properties just so we could get a better sense of the village. And then we asked him to put together a multi-part scope for us so that the commission and then the board could look at this in a piecemeal fashion from a cost and execution standpoint, but with the idea that we would walk away from the process with a comprehensive village-wide plan for what we thought would be some improvements to the village. Some of the ARPA committee has been discussing for some time, and so that's what we did, and that's what Blake has provided to us. Ben, do you want to add to that?
The only thing I'll add is, again, the Plan Commission kind of was on board a few months ago with the whole streetscape concepts. We mentioned to Blake that in the past, there was a interest in doing new village signs, so we wanted to revisit that as well. And I think my takeaway from the meeting when Blake was here is Blake really encouraged to just get a comprehensive plan to build support so that as you're looking for project partners or funding sources, et cetera, they know that there's some consensus built around some concepts already. As talked about before, I believe the first phase of his services coming up with the plan would be doing some extensive public involvement. So it would be, not only at Plan Commission and village board meetings, but I believe there's some additional meetings built in there as well. So I think the intent is that the focus group kind of do some initial brainstorming and then get feedback from the rest of the community and try to hone in on some concepts. And then as it goes toward the streetscape projects, if these TID project plans get approved, then you could talk about doing some real things to implement some of the concepts. I think that's all.
I think the other thing too is, the ARPA committee, as we were trying to think about ways that the village might use some of the ARPA funds, is really what kind of prompted some of these earlier discussions. And some of the folks in that group had reached out to Kelly's Greenscapes for some preliminary plans. Some of you may recall seeing some of the proposed, changes here at Village Hall and things like that. But then it came to light that as part of the project plans, there is funding in the TID plans for streetscaping efforts, village improvement, beautification type efforts. So the ARPA committee kind of put a stop on what they were doing and decided that it would be best to bring in a firm that does this professionally and take a look at it. And additionally, we could have the cost for this type of work covered by the TIDS, which we found very appealing as well.
What is this costing?
Well, his,
Proposals.
Yeah.
70 grand.
yeah, his full proposal's in your packet there, but yeah, I think it's just south of 70 for,
So it's 65,240.
Yeah.
And the plan commission don't really care about the cost, but I tell you, when it goes to the village board, the whole people come before the village board and speak up about that kind of cost. Unless you're saying that money is paid for out of the TID and out of ARPA. I don't see a taxpayer wanting to pay 65,000 for some guy to say, ah, put a bench here, put a sign down there. I mean, this is a little bit vague, you know, when you're talking about the Main Street visioning and the Jake's Park and the Civic Center, this downtown district, you know, I mean, it's a little vague, but, you know, we're gonna send it to the village board. I don't have a problem with that.
well, that it's vague by intent. So you want to keep the level of effort for it conceptually to a minimum until we get, you know, some buy-in from the planning commission and the village board. So you don't go spending a whole bunch of money on a bunch of stuff that, you know, gets thrown in the can right out of the gate.
Can I say something? Just a small something. At the,
So
I didn't try to-
that's what it is.
Did you get the impression that the areas were prioritized when you kind of, Main Street was our most important and things branched off from there?
I think that's the concept, at least in my mind, but we're certainly not beholden to doing these in any particular order. That could be, you know, determined at a later time, but, you know, I think conceptually,
This
at
is
least the ARPA group felt that, you know, this would be a phased kind of concentric extending approach, right? So you start in the center and you work your way out. But this also is useful for, you know, we got involved with the Connect Communities and the Waukesha Economic Development Corporation, and there's a lot of funding mechanisms for like businesses, like perfect examples of like the old Betty Ann's here. And, you know, so if somebody's looking for grant money or wants to apply for grant money to do, say, facade improvements or remodeling to their building, a lot of times those folks want to see as part of that application, some sort of plan or buy-in from the village. So that, you know, this is kind of trying to take a preemptive step towards identifying and delineating some of those things, envisioning some of those things so that we can help support those people who might want to go apply for those types of things as well. So, or if the village itself wants to seek out assistance from, say, the county for, you know, improvements to the county road or access to Jake's Park. You know, we've had some conversations with them to try to extend the paved path to a safe crossing point across Lannon Road, and, you know, we get nowhere with them. But I think if we had a solidified plan like this that shows that we're not just sticking out our hand asking for stuff, we've got a long-term vision that we can follow, you know, then that's the goal. So it's kind of like doing your comprehensive planning in the village as well. You know, kind of look out into the future and how you see different properties being used and all that, and that gets updated every so often.
Well, I think it's divided in the way I would want to think about it as Main Street, and then the ancillary areas branching off of that. It's you know, it's broken down into the concepts, and the cost is the cost, and but it's what we asked for, I think, as a first step. I would have a problem with that.
Now, I will say that I sent this proposal as well to the other two members, Liz Ilnicki and Jenny Bartelt, and asked for their feedback prior to this meeting, so I could share any of that with you. And Jennifer brought up a good question. She said, are there other companies that do this? And that's a valid point, maybe we need to be looking at other options. I don't know what's out there. I know that this one has been used in a lot of communities around us, but it's not to say there isn't a better option or different options.
If I recall, I remember them saying that they've done Deansville and Mequon, something like that, and Stover, but at the same time, it looked like they said all they did was make a proposal. They really haven't done anything that we know of. So,
Yeah, I know they worked with Menominee Falls on their Village Park project that they're doing the second phase of right now. Maybe you can speak to some of the other areas where they actually, municipalities actually executed their plans.
I'm thinking of Janesville just did like a big riverfront civic center downtown kind of a thing. That was just implemented last year. I know they were involved in that. Blake from architecture was on a preeminent, he was employed by a firm that was a preeminent landscape firm in Wisconsin. That firm got bought out. Blake decided to strike out on his own. So he's been on his own for approximately 3 years, but he's got 20+ years of experience. Yeah, that's why
My thoughts on this is, what has he done in a community this size? Because we're landed. And just taking a rough guess on the open developable property around your land, it's never going to be more than maybe 2,500. And I hear, well, there's TID money. And in my mind, the most important use of that TID money is the well and water power. And I don't want to see the village get into a position where, well, we fancied up Main Street, but now we don't have the money.
All of those projects or identified projects are budgeted in those project plans, so.
Okay, I've never seen anything of that, but I've only been here a little bit over a year. And like Mike said, to tell the residents, we're spending 65 grand on this. Don't think that's gonna go over real well. But I do agree we need to do a long-term plan of some sort, but we have to, guessing that we're gonna take this property over and do a village hall or do a new village garage or something, that money's gotta come from somewhere. And is Lana never gonna be big enough to support that? Is my question that we don't take, we got these 2 tits out there now that we mortgage the next generation's future. And this ends up, pardon me for saying this, Menominee Falls or Sussex. I think we have to be extremely careful with that.
well, since the village board's gonna have to really make the decision, I guess I'll just make a recommendation to send this to the village board for their review and approval.
Are you looking to do the total package?
I just saying, send this to the village board, and let them look at it. That's my motion. Send it to the village board for review and their approval. Whatever they decide to do, okay, it comes back to us then for looking at the drawings. That's all we do.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action on signs for the Land and Lions Club.
Thanks for taking some time tonight for us. Did everybody see everything I sent over for Ben originally? Else, do you want? As you see from our presentation, our goal is to kind of let people know we have a service organization here in town with the Lions Club. Okay, currently, as you can see from it, we have one sign up near our clubhouse on a post down by the ballparks. Okay, our goal would like to be to get one on every entrance to land, somewhere near the village sign. Of course, taking into account, we don't want to block the village sign or any other important sign that's in the way, okay? In the case of either in the Landon Road, we currently don't have a welcome to Landon sign normally. So again, if there's a goal to put one up on either end of town, we'd be more than happy to make some type of contribution to make that happen, okay? On the south end of town, when you come in, then we're just looking for like a sign more or less that's on the side of the road on Landon Road by Forest View, like the one for St. John's Church that's located right there. We probably put a little further north. Forest View, not right there to block anything, because there's a speed limit sign, I believe, there, and the St. John's Church. In the other locations where you already have a Landon sign up, we want to work with the village to find a spot to appropriately place a sign, okay? Now, some people aren't too thrilled with the circle sign you see on the first page. I think it's kind of big and awkward.
That sign was replaced in '99. It's a 30-inch aluminum. And it's actually on a new post that was actually, someone must have moved it down the road about 100 feet. So I can tell you that because of one of the questions, they didn't know when it was there, but '99, I know it was there because I put it there.
Okay, it just got replaced, the snowplow snapped it off last year, so it just got replaced this year, so I did it. But a lot of times, when you enter the village and stuff, there's not really a lot of circular signs, so it might look out of place compared to what else is in the area. So we do have an option, I'm sorry I didn't print out page, but we do have an option for a square sign, that could be 30 by 30 or 30 by 36. If it would blend in better with the signage, with what's around it, you know, because you got no parking signs a lot of times by some of your entrances. You have the speed limit signs and things like that. So if that was the case, if we had to get something that blended in well with the signs that are already there, we don't have a problem with it. So fortunately, the lead time, 6 to 8 weeks. So from our different sources. So it would take us a little while to get the signs. There's it's all highway aluminum grade reflective signs that they use. Okay, so it wouldn't be dull or stick out in any other way. We're just trying to get a way to get it out there because, you know, as you know, we do a lot of things in the community, you know, give money to the food bank, a couple scholarships every year. We give money to the Leader Dog program for the blind. Blind is a big goal of the Lions Club. So we just want to get it out there, hopefully draw more members in, as well as be able to help more organizations in our community as well. So.
Do they make a smaller round? Can't remember.
I don't think
Just
so.
the 30 is the smallest.
That's the smallest they make. Yeah. They make larger, but
Yeah.
What is the balls have?
nothing yet. That's my next goal. I'm starting here, since we already have one.
I think the Lions International round sign is the sign that should be not a square because everybody associates the round.
Right.
You know, if you go to any city in the country, you see the round, you know it's the Lions. So that's gonna be a non-starter about square one in my book. I would say it has to be a 30-inch round. I do not see any problem with them putting it, you know, alongside the Landon gray signs, not on the street side, but on the, call it the gutter side.
Yeah.
And as far as the one on the south end of Landon Road, you know, near the Landon population sign on the ditch side also.
There's a population sign on that in the town.
I think that's the picture that you took here.
This is the north end.
Oh,
This is up at Calvary.
it's up by Calvary.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The south end doesn't have
Okay,
one.
south end don't
The
have.
south one, you come in, you got a speed limit sign, the St. John's Church
So
sign.
there's one before you get to St. John's, there's a population sign on the right hand side.
Right by the flower shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
trucks.
No, we're talking about Land Road.
On Land
We're talking
Road.
Land
Oh,
Road.
land.
So it's somewhere along between the mobile home park and Forest View. I think there's a speed sign there.
Speed sign and the St.
So
John
you
sign.
would be in the ditch side of that sign.
If I go a little bit past the St. John's church sign, so I don't block anything, there's a telephone pole right there. When you come out on Forest View, there's a phone pole right there, if I be, then I wouldn't block anything else down there.
But on Land Road?
Yeah.
Okay.
To the south.
Do we need to get county approval for any of the ones that are on?
Right.
Believe it or not, there has been case law developing at the US Supreme Court level. And basically, they have been restricting the regulation of signs by communities on the basis of the content. But the one area where there is uniform agreement is that municipalities can control their right of way for safety purposes. And my strong recommendation has been to my other communities to disallow, not allow, the placement of signage in public right of ways. And we've been able to work it out by having people who are proposing to place signs in the community approach the property owner for their consent to place those signs with some kind of a license arrangement, thereby basically bypassing the issue of safety or obstruction of traffic right of ways. The other problem that communities have, and I suspect we have that here, is determining what the boundary is for the right of way. Because in all situations, the edge of the paved road isn't necessarily a uniform distance from the right of way area. I have one community that has basically 36-foot wide roadways. Believe it or not, they have a 100-foot right of way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to these at all. I just want to make sure that we don't, create any safety issues or get into a situation where some other agency is going to come and remove them after you've invested money in them. So I think most of the locations are no-brainers for me, but
Well, wherever the village, wherever the gray ones for the village of Lannon are, they'd be, 3 feet even further off the road because of by that sign. The only one that they might have to maybe question it would be, because Lannon Road is a county road, is just talk to Waukesha County Highway to see where you want to put the X, and see what they say.
Right.
That would be the only thing that they would have to approve.
So were you thinking like with these ones where the land and signs are now that you would attach them to the existing sign, or were you going to put a new pole?
I wouldn't attach to your sign, I wouldn't want to.
Because I know a lot of communities do that. Like you go into Butler,
I
you
know.
see they got, there's,
I know.
it's like a gumball machine of
Right.
signs on there, but,
Well, I wouldn't want to detract, like right now, Lannon's advertising cars on Main, and I wouldn't want our signs to detract from that. So we're an active participant of it, but I still wouldn't want to detract from the sign that's being posted.
It is gonna be an issue with Waukesha County because like the Jeffrey Blind Child signs, they will put up and then Waukesha County or the DOT, whoever did it, took them down.
see, that's what I'm afraid of. So, so what, if you were gonna put these on their own poles, then what are you proposing for the poles? Are you gonna use wood posts?
We use a
Round
standard,
galvanized?
no, we use a
pole type
standard,
things?
standard 8-foot post.
Okay.
a treated
A
post.
treated
A treated
4x4 post kind of thing.
We would, if it had to be painted to match the gray on Lannon signs, and painted gray and whatever happens to be.
I guess first thing they'd have to do is to get a location Waukesha County from the highway department. I think it would be a good idea for our village to have signage with our name on it coming into town. And also the Lions Club, I wasn't aware of this till a few months ago, but every dollar that the Lions Club fundraises in the village of Lannon stays in Lannon. It does not get shared with the falls.
Right.
And that, the Lions Club donates a lot of money to our community, and they're involved in
Right.
pretty much everything that goes on. Every event that's held is somehow sponsored by the Lions Club.
Whether it's pancake breakfast this Sunday or the national night out we have in August.
Yeah.
We try to get involved in everything because we just want to be seen.
Yeah, so I mean,
Would they have a problem just putting it next to the Landon sign?
well, I think to Hector, you know, when you listen to what Hector was talking about, that probably is why more communities probably do put them on their signs, because maybe they feel that's a safer location. It's not, you know, you've already got a permit or use from the county, because our signs are in the county right of ways as well. Because I believe when Mr. Gudex was looking at doing the new big limestone signs, you know, it was gonna be, there's a fair amount of cost associated with getting permits from the county for those. So,
Then
But-
probably
but it-
remembers, but
but if we had those, I would say just stick them onto that. to be
Well, then
honest with you.
the cars on Main would have to put their own temporary sign on their own little post somewhere else, you know.
But see, that's a lot
And I mean,
easier.
right now they're screwing into our sign and, you know, that this is a little bit more than just, so I would say that would be all right on the furthest away from the road post, then you want to put it on a landing post. Now, the one on Good Hope and Town Line up there, that's village. I mean, that's not even a county sign up there, county right away.
You could try to cover up some of the holes in it. Put your sign on there.
example, Ben, isn't the right of way on Forest View 40 feet?
That's a good
I
question.
think it is, because I'm on the corner of Forest View and Landon. So I think it's 40 feet on Landon Road as an example.
Well, I'd be willing to bet it's at least 60. but-
60.
Yeah,
So
most are gonna be 60, and then as Hector
That-
pointed out.
that one
some
county
will
may
be
have a
spent
hard
off.
time with, because you're only gonna be a few feet off the road. So, but I can go talk to them by all means.
Well, I'd like to have you go to the county, and see what they say about it,
Mhm.
and then come back to us.
I can do that. It's not a problem.
Decision based on what the county says.
Okay. Yeah. I'll make a
Yeah,
point.
just to make sure we got all the
Okay.
Ts crossed and Is dotted, but I don't think anybody here is saying they oppose the idea.
Yeah, I can go talk to them. That's not a problem.
Conceptually, I agree.
Okay.
About it.
So let me go talk to the county. And I'll meet that with you.
I make a motion, we table the Landon Lions sign request.
Well, second,
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor to table?
I,
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Discussion and possible action regarding the plan of operation site plan for Filtration Concepts LLC located at 19806 West Main Street.
I want to introduce Jordan from Rupert Milky, correct? Who's here on behalf of the applicant. Jordan, feel free to give us some opening remarks about this project.
Okay, yeah, just a quick summary. As you can see on the board here, the building is already existing to the southeast and they're expanding to the northeast. It's a 6,816 square foot expansion, and then as you can see, the gray asphalt, they're expanding that a little bit. There is an existing drive going through there currently, but as you can see, the expansion will cover up that, will cover up existing drive, and for fire safety, we need to expand the driveway around that building. There'll be signs not allowing trucks to go through there as it is a little tight, but there's enough room for a fire truck to go around. And then there's an existing wet pond that takes all stormwater for TSS removal and peak flow reduction. And that pond has been determined to be adequately sized for this expansion. And there will be a swale, as you can see on the northeast or northwest, which will take all water from the proposed expansion to the wet pond.
That swale there along that, where Ben's got his little hand going back and forth. You're proposing removing trees. How do you, that drops down into Whispering Ridge. Right now, them trees are blocking any sight from them houses down there up to that area. And you want to remove them trees. How do you plan on building a swale in there to send that water down to supposedly the wet pond?
Could you go to the last page of this? Yes. So as you can see here, we're going to remove those trees and then build the swale, and then we're going to be replanting trees. They won't be the exact same size, so they won't have as much coverage. But there's just, it doesn't drop off until the other side of the building line. So there's enough room there to get it. I mean, it's only about a couple feet wide at the bottom. There's enough room to build it back up to the existing grade before it falls down that hill. Just because we don't want any of that water flowing down hill to all those new buildings that are there.
Has this been presented to the Falls Fire Department?
Yes, this has.
Ben, did you guys have any comments on this in terms of the drainage and stormwater?
Yep, good question. So we've actually been working with this applicant for several months. They've been contemplating this project. One of the things that we did for the stormwater, I'll go back to page 6 here. So you'll recall, some of you may notice this pond. I think it's got some cattails and other things in it. So kind of a primary concern to us was making sure we understood what happened with the drainage, especially because Overstone condominiums are just down the hill from this. So in reviewing the stormwater, we pulled the Overstone stormwater management plan and did confirm that they accounted for runoff from this property in the sizing of their pond. So the way that the stormwater works on this, and you can help me out if I'm misrepresenting something here, Jordan, but there's a portion of the water on this property that flows into the county right of way. And then this end of the building, I think naturally right now kind of runs down the berm, and that ends up in Marv's Pond. So what they're doing now is there's still a little bit of that that's not going to end up in this swale, just in this corner here is going to continue to run down in here. And Marv actually has a berm kind of cut out all the way back here. And again, is accounting for that through flow in his stormwater management pond. And then what the applicant's doing here is picking up a lot of runoff here, redirecting it to this pond. So this original building was from 92. Ish. There's no record of the pond drawings on file or anything. So part of what Jordan's company did in preparation for this is they went out and kind of measured up the pond to try to account for what it's capable of doing from a stormwater management perspective. And they're planning on dredging the pond also to kind of restore some of the volume and capacity in there. They're going to be installing an overflow weir, and the normal discharge pipe here is going to direct water toward the county right away, correct? Yeah. So they've done a pretty thorough job here of accounting for all that.
So I have one question, and knowing that there's plans to demolish the house on Main Street there, wouldn't it have been easier to just extend the building another 7,000 square feet that way, or is that?
They actually originally had a plan
where, and this is why they talked about demolishing the building in the first place, where they were going to add on in an L shape. So you would have maybe a similar size expansion on the end of the existing building, and then it would go this route a little bit. And, from what the property owner told me is the inflation prices kind of did that project in. So they found a way to do an addition on the other side of the building while maintaining all the traffic flow, et cetera. If they did the expansion over here, they would have to do a lot of tweaking with their entrance and kind of truck circulation through the property. So they found a way to make it work over here.
And that was actually what we originally planned, was to have that expansion to the southeast where that building was being demolished, and it just got too expensive for them. That's it.
I presume all the offices and finished spaces are towards the front there, and those would have to be all configured.
Yeah, I will say, one thing you'll see in our notes is we asked for an updated floor plan. So just kind of segue into that. So this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just warehouse area of the building. So there's not a lot going on here on the floor plan. And then we've got the building elevation here also. West elevation, help us understand what we're looking at here, Jordan.
The end of the building?
Yeah, this is the end that's gonna be on the northwest side.
Okay.
You're looking at it.
Yep.
From that side, yeah.
From that corner up
Yeah.
there.
As far as the village's performance standards go, or architectural standards go, you'll recall that it just simply has to, in a situation like this, be conform with the rest of the building and conform with its surroundings. So they've accomplished that.
That, in the backpack, that is that semi-trailer, that won't be parked back there anymore?
No, not anymore.
Okay, and since this is part of the plan of operation that they're submitting as a new application, I noticed right away that they just list all the vehicles that are on the property, it just says box trucks. And it says, please use reverse side for additional listings and nothing in the backside of mine. So I'd like to know how many trucks are gonna be parked along the building all the time, you know, so they need to add that to the plan of operation. On this proposed building addition, do they know what lighting they're gonna have on the outside?
We did not receive it.
Because right now, I would say is no lighting until we see what lighting they're gonna put on, because of the fact is, I wanna protect the people in Overstone there. Is there any means of maybe a lot of them big spruces, they're not that big along that northern side. Can they be removed via one of the big spade digging companies and they transplant them on the property somewhere else until that's done, and then they put them back there so they already have some growth?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
So that's my comments as far as the building. It would be, we won't approve, I won't agree to it unless we see the lighting plan for the outside along there. As far as this plan of operation, they have to list their trucks that they have on the property on this plan of operation. And if they could move those spruces and save them and put them back along that swell area to help Overstone people, because, you know, I don't think they want to have that shining in their houses. Those are my comments on this particular project.
Just one thought on the outdoor lighting, Mike, they do have, I believe, Jordan, there's a, what do we have for doors over here? Any doors? No, no doors over here. Okay. The only thing I was gonna say is if there's any lights above egress doors.
Right, but you know, that's what I'm saying, is I don't want them to put on a light on the corner just to light up the back corner now, unless it's a, you know, somehow they show us a fixture. They're gonna have cameras back there, but that's one thing, but if they have any kind of lights along that back area, that's.
Yeah, cut sheets and a photometric plan.
Yep.
All the lighting they have now, I can see the building at 4 o'clock in the morning when I take my dogs out, and there is traffic moving up there
between 4 and 5 o'clock. Some of it's the garbage truck, but there are straight trucks going around, and I'm sure Patrick's neighbors won't appreciate as your hours of operation start at 7. Trucks driving around. I'm far enough away, it doesn't bother me, but somebody that just spent $500,000 for half of a condo is probably, as Mike said, not gonna be very appreciative. And if you have a 7 a.m. start time, why are these trucks starting and running? And are they going to be parking around the new part of the building? Or are they gonna stay on the east side?
They will stay on the east side. There's gonna be, they're not gonna allow trucks on that new property or on the new pavement. They're gonna put signs up saying no trucks around for that exact reason, so they aren't shining their lights in the new condos.
I can tell you how well that's gonna work.
Yeah.
As a sign guy, I can tell you, I can put all the signs they want up there, those trucks are still gonna drive.
They have Jack once. And I think, like Mike said, with screening, the east end, again, to protect Overstone. And have you guys even talked to Mark about this?
That is a question I don't. I would need to ask the project manager on that.
Yeah, I think Mike brings up a very good suggestion. I think with the additional proximity to the property line there, in fact, it could warrant bolstering up that landscaping. I know on your plan, you've got 33 arborvitae and a select number of other things, but you know, maybe in combination with what Mr. Grimm suggested in terms of just temporarily moving those trees while you do your grading work and then plop them back in, throw a few more arborvitae in there to kind of blend it in and fill in the gaps. And but you know, I think we'd like to see a plan of how that's going to get executed, so we've got something to come back when it's done and look at and say, okay, these are where they're supposed to be.
As far as the exterior lighting, my backyard's lit up 24 hours a day now. So what Saywall's got on its building, I can see any critters running around behind my house. So I would like to hear what Mark Berg's got to say about this, because he is going to be the neighbor, and I'd like to see his comments addressed, so that we don't have an issue 6 months down the road.
Understood.
So we provided substantial comments. So we want to table this until they come back with more information for you, or?
Yeah, I like to just kind of like, yeah, have them come back with listing of the vehicles on the plan of operation. And if there is going to be any lighting, they come back with some lighting information. And then there's a few items that the engineer is looking for on the existing structure. Then if you could share them with items 3 and 4 with.
Yeah.
And then stormwater maintenance agreement, you know, that's got to go to the village board. So we could send that next time too. I don't think that's gonna hurt the project right now. And you got an idea what we're looking for. I mean, we want to protect the neighbors with the screening especially.
Yeah.
You know, one other thing that I just occurred to me. So this building will be connected to the municipal water system. And on your thing here, it says you do not have a sprinkler system for obvious reasons today. Is there going to be, what is this gonna create any needs or changes for them from the Menominee Falls Fire Department that you're aware of then? In terms of the added square footage?
what Cole Myra, who's the lead for Keller Buildings, discussed with me is they went back and forth on whether or not to do a sprinkler, and they did have an iteration where they were planning to sprinkle the whole thing, but due to inflation and costs, they came back and they beefed up this wall as a firewall so that they don't need to sprinkle it.
Because I believe, didn't 1229 have to go back and put sprinklers in?
I don't recall.
That Ross had a sprinkler his building, but he's parking vehicles in there.
Just from the addition.
Gary?
Well, in the old days, we had an ordinance here in Landon of over 5,000 square feet. But now that you went to the falls, and I believe they're over 12,000, something like that.
Right.
So that's why the old ones had to be done. But this isn't over 12,000. You're okay.
What's the square footage of the existing structure? Be well bet it's over 12,000.
That's why they put the additional firewall in there.
Yeah, right, but anything to do with it. Right, but I'm saying with the connection to the water, I'm just asking, I don't. Certainly. Not advocating for them having to spend a ridiculous amount of money that it would cost to sprinkle this building, but.
I have to get the square acres and get back to you.
So this addition is just gonna be cold storage.
Yeah, correct.
What is the product that's gonna be stored there?
I don't remember what they.
Filters.
They sell lots of filters.
Filters is on this one.
HVAC filters.
Filters, right?
As far as I know, it's just materials, water, air.
Motion to table filtration concept.
We have a motion and second to table filtration concepts. We have any more discussion?
One item for clarification.
Yes, Matt.
Do you want to send the stormwater maintenance agreement at the next meeting, or you want to wait until the plan commission acts on this again?
So we could split this then. Let me rescind that. I make a motion to send the stormwater maintenance agreement to the village board for filtration concept.
We have a motion and second to send the stormwater maintenance agreement to the village board. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I make a motion to table the plan of operation in the addition for filtration concept.
We have a motion and second to table plan of operation for filtration concepts until set questions are answered. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action regarding a plan of operation for CS storage located at 20172 West Good Hope Road.
Pulling up the documents here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if you don't mind, I'll just start with the general overview. For the site plan here, they provided a series of things, I think intended to show the drainage, to show what's currently outside. Storage, what's parked there. They put black X's through some things that they're gonna make go away. They noted that in this area, they've got some temporary pallet racking for storage. It'll be removed once owner has his new lot completed. Some drainage arrows for the site plan. But with that in context of just this broader application here is They indicate here that the property is not being used as a daily business. That family and friends store things along with the actual owners of the buildings themselves. And I think that's, you observed that, brought that up in the past complaints, et cetera. What they did not do is address, where they're using village's property, because they're over the property line right now. This property is zoned B2 business districts. And, outdoor storage is most consistently classified as, a use that's only allowable in light industrial uses, not in the business uses. Unless that outdoor storage has some relation to the principal use of that structure here. My thought on this is, it seems like they're asking for some of these outdoor storage uses to continue ambiguously until they're done with the outdoor storage uses, things of that nature. So that's what they put before the commission. And take it from there.
And I see that they're not here in the audience. And so the question is, that stuff that is stored out there, all that so-called pallet stuff, orange stuff, there's a dumpster back there, which isn't screened, but all that palleting stuff, all they say in their paperwork is, well, when the guy gets done building his place. Well, like you said, when is that place? I would like to have them answer that question. But since they're not here to answer that question, I think they got 30 days. I think we could give them 30 days to get that outside storage stuff off that property. Because this is not, like you say, this is a B2 district that doesn't allow for outside storage. That's this stuff actually belongs in light industrial zoning. So that's the stuff I would say is that pallet racking has got to be gone in 30 days.
And anything else that they have on the village property, if that's not removed.
And then we'll have to address that dumpster that's back there too. If he wants to maintain a dumpster, he's got to follow the rules of screening.
Where did they get this form they filled out?
Probably online.
It's different than the other.
It doesn't, yeah.
Well, I think they converted it or something because they typed it in, right? Or is it written in?
No, it's handwritten.
Is it handwritten?
Yeah, they did. do something.
Filtration did.
Yeah, we don't know who signed it or who filled it out.
It's interesting.
And is it a business?
So it sounded like you were formulating a motion there.
I make a motion that CSC Storage should remove all that pallet packing, everything that's outside that area within 30 days of notice. And any other items that are on the village property within 30 days of the notice.
Second. We have a motion and second. Any more discussion? Yes.
Because really, we can't really say much. I mean, it's really not a business. It's got a garage, oversized garage. If he wants his friends to come put stuff and pack it in his garage, as long as it's in the building, out of sight, out of mind.
So you're tabling your motion to table and have give them that 30 days to.
So it's 30 days to get that other stuff off the property. And
question I have is this red line that says 249.50, is that actually the property line? On first page,
I surveyed it. It lines up with the garage, the existing garage is there.
so
Right
is
along
his
the garage.
garage actually on village property?
No.
That's
Right
a
on the
shadow.
property line.
Okay, just wanted to make sure what his trailer and all this other stuff.
Looks like some asphalt maybe there.
Are we actually addressing the motion in front of us?
Well, that was just a question I had on there, but I think that should be included, that's already within 30 days. That is part of your motion. What was that? That his using the village property gets cleaned up in the 30 days.
Yes, that's part of the 30 days, the ballots, everything along that, basically that lot line. But, you know, everything on the village property is gotta be gone, and I think that, I'm not sure if that's asphalt, but I think that might be just gravel back there, that's on the village property, which should be removed and dirt and grass placed back in there. I think the weeds will take over in time with nobody's on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was discussion.
Okay, you're in discussion.
Thank you. All in favor of the table, CNS,
No,
or bring back in 30 days?
no. He's got 30 days, we're giving him a 30-day notice, so when Brenda types it up or something like that, sends it out, say 5 days, something like that, 30 days after that notice goes out, that he has to have all that stuff, all that pallet stuff out of there. You know, because we don't know, he ain't here to tell us that his friend needs 60 days or 90 days. Too bad, you've been noticed that you've been asked to come here 2-3 times now, so let's just give him 30 days from date of notice.
And then we'll consider his plan of operation.
Then he doesn't need a plan.
You don't need a plan of operation because it's all it is, it's storage inside of a garage building, it's private, right?
Any more discussion? Questions?
Would you then just deny the plan of operation?
Issue of citation or.
I mean, is it not CS Storage LLC?
Okay.
You're saying that they're not a business, and you're saying if they're not a business, they don't need a plan of operation.
Well, we should do 2 parts then.
I don't,
We'll do the,
I just raised that question. I don't know, Hector, if you have any insight on tabling or denying.
At this point, I think that you should basically table the matter, and modify your motion indicating that they will be prosecuted for trespassing on village property.
okay. So how do we get the stuff off the outside storage then?
No, the most that the municipal court can do is when you're going blind. We go to the circuit court.
Okay, so, okay. So I rescind my motion, I make a motion that we send a notice to CS Storage. They have 30 days to remove their stuff from the village for to be cited for trespassing. That they have 30 days to remove the outside storage items of the pallets and all that stuff, because that's not allowed in that district. And that their plan of operation is denied.
We have a motion and second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action regarding sign permit for Henny's Dugout LLC at 7273 North Lannon Road, Lannon, Wisconsin 53046.
We had tabled this once before, right, or asked for them to come back with more information about this, a little more details about this open sign and some things of that nature. It doesn't look like anything's changed here, so I don't know. Yes, my opinion would be to table it and get more details.
I second it.
We have a motion and second to table. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action regarding undesirable storage at following locations. 7090 North Town Line Road, Artistic Stone. Do we want to address these all separately?
My photos aren't numbered, so I don't know. Give us a key, pictures 3 to 14 are from Artistic Stone.
I put them in order, but they weren't.
Oh, okay, all right.
Do you have no
I guess.
pictures?
I do not have numbered pictures, no. I just wanted, I didn't know if you folks had Paul's stuff in your pack or not. But
Yeah, I just didn't know if those were, I assumed
I
those were
know.
them, but I wasn't certain.
I would probably say they're the ones that have all the boats that are high and dry. That group. Cars and trucks and
These piles of stone on their property, or is that stuff that's going on with Kelly's project?
looks like what it was Paul must have took the pictures from Kelly's property. He
He
didn't go on the property itself.
He was over there talking to Sean and Sean took him back there. And Paul told me, so there wasn't an issue with him accessing. He just took the pictures of Artistic from Sean Kelly's property.
Looks like an organized big old junkyard.
Sanford,
Okay, that was motion second, right?
Okay, so what do we want to do with 7090 North Town Line Road, Artistic Stone?
So you can move on.
We just issue a cease and desist order for all activities. Give them 30 days to clean it up completely. Or, basically, but
Second.
We have a motion and second on 7090 North Town Lane Road. Any more discussion? Comments, Ben or Hector?
I'm trying to recall it from the last meeting and on this one specifically, if, like you had mentioned something about calling them in for a revised plan of operation. in addition to the meeting up.
I don't know, Brenda, did you get a chance to see what the plan of operation showed?
I'm here tonight representing the property owner. Mr. Nagler is out of town. He's also my neighbor, and I've been working with him to try to clean this up. There was two issues last night. One is up at the top of his building where the stone cutting activity takes care of. That's zoned light industrial. There's parking up there. It's not for rent. Some of it's his, some of it's his friends. So that's not an issue. The issue is the stuff down in the quarry. And he's been trying to get that guy evicted for some time. That is going on. In fact, we've been working with Chief Bell on it too. So it probably won't go away in 30 days. Because he's been trying to get rid of it for about 60 days so far. And the fella that's all his stuff, was living here in Milwaukee and now he moved to Chicago. And you only see him when you can catch him. So we were working with Chief Bell to try and locate him, and get an address to give him legal notice. But right now it's underway. He's moved a few things out, but it won't get cleaned up in 30 days. I guarantee you that.
That whole area is not on the plan of operation, so it is,
Well, and it's quarry zone.
yeah,
Which area is not on the plan of operation?
that blue area, where all
Everything
that
in
junk
that
is
blue-
stored.
That's quarry.
Okay.
Zone quarry and the upper part of zone light industrial.
Is that where the circus used to be on that property? It was the one to the south, back at the quarry. Carnival,
Yeah.
carnival stuff.
Yeah,
That was,
stuff, all the trailers and.
Oh, yeah, no, that was years ago and that's the property next door.
next door there, okay. So,
So how do we want to handle this?
I'll amend my recommendation to read, we give the landowner 60 days to come up with a plan of removal of everything in the quarry section. Failure to do so, I don't care who it belongs to, it's still his. And then we'll have him come before us. And if it's not done, we'll issue a citation.
second,
We have a motion and second. Any more discussion? Comments, Hector? No.
Some of the vehicles down there in the quarry are his, from his quarry and stuff. So he doesn't have to remove that stuff. It's the,
he's got to identify him and
Make them presentable.
well, it's screened, you can't see it from the highway. So it's not undesirable storage from that regard. It's undesirable that it's a junkyard,
Yeah.
but if he can store his own equipment down there.
Are they operable?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Are
His,
they licensed?
his, well,
Well, that'd be.
well, we've been checking the license plates and they all belong to other people.
Well,
So-
that is.
But it's quarry
Criteria.
equipment, it's not necessarily licensed. It's
Oh.
loaders and it's
well,
equipment for
not
quarry.
Regular.
Yeah.
Automobiles. Equipment they use for quarry.
Here we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, tax key LANV 0068980 Marcy Farms LLC, immediately east of Helquist Stone at Village Border. I think these would be.
so according to the inspector, he says he was denied access. So I make a recommendation that Marcy Farms at LANVO V 0068980, Cheryl Krupman, LANV 00689990002, and One Schneider Landscaping, LANV 00689999001, be sent to the village board for action.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action regarding site alteration at KCOM.
These were photos 1 and 2, pages 1 and 2.
I believe so. You know, 2 is, them tables I've seen there.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought we were pretty clear on our position with this, and apparently he's just chosen to.
Especially since he told the building inspector that we had approved this, and I know we did not.
Situation. Issue a cease and desist order and start finding them. That's so now. I can't tell from these photographs, but is this, I'm assuming this is just packed, crushed stone out here in the back where these picnic tables are or something? Looks like it from the road.
We don't know how much he added, how much he changed that area
The
back there.
grading and all that. I mean, that was the big thing we talked to him about, was the grading.
That's right.
Did he talk to you about grading at all?
Nope, haven't talked to him since last time he was at planning commission.
I think his last remarks was, he's been here forever, you shouldn't have to put up with this.
Jerry, do you know, has he been filling that in back there?
Well, first of all, let the record show that I sold him the property, and the illegal grading that was going on was not due to me.
I was wondering if that was true that you sold.
Well, yeah. Last fall already, he had somebody in there, and he was actually removing topsoil in the wetland area. But now it's his property. Yeah, he's been doing some things back there. I know nothing.
Well, he's not gonna stop.
That's the only time that here's hearing you say that.
And he knows what's right and
And he
what's wrong.
even said to us, I'm gonna get rid of the dumpster. It was still there. It's still there. It's
How
still there.
long ago did he say he was getting rid of that?
At that meeting, the last time he sat out there in the audience, he brought it up.
That was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Several months, because he
I
was.
thought it was last fall or last
Yeah.
summer.
It was like a year ago almost.
We originally wanted to get it done last year and then it said.
Oh,
wait
it was
till
when
spring.
that other guy was adding, when the other guy was gonna put that office in that place. I mentioned the dumpster, he said, I'll get rid of the dumpster, it's gone. So whenever that, we approved that plan, adding that guy to the office in that building.
But his discussions with
It's always
the
been-
is coming up on a year.
Yes, it's always been, yes, it's a year, it's always been, we're gonna get rid of this dumpster, we're gonna, yeah, I'll get this all, up to code. And move
I
the
think it
stage.
started in June of last year.
Right. I think the last time he was here was August, pertaining to his project.
So,
May 21st, 2021.
so Hector, what would be your recommended course of action here?
Well, not only with regards to this matter, but the previous items that we talked about. The village really needs to have a point person for the enforcement. Because, for example, we need somebody to testify and present the evidence. And the decision has to be made as to whether you're going to just look for a fine or seek an order from the court to take action, an injunction, if you will. So I would recommend that you recommend that the building inspector work with our office to assemble a case with regards to 16 and all 15 to enable us to prosecute, because you just can't put a placard on a building and stop the action. That's just not going to accomplish anything.
the reason why I said we're sending it to the village board is so the village board can then authorize you and, doing, because it's a cost now, they gotta spend money. So the village board needs to, that's why I say, when I send it to the village board for action, it's that action if the village board now assigns it as a case to necessary people. And, because plan commission can only recommend, so
Exactly.
that's why I said, B, C, and D. And I guess, I could make that same recommendation with ACOM that we send this to the village board for them to take the action of, the necessary action to bring this into compliance.
And that would be appropriate.
So that's my motion to send KCOM to the village board for action.
I'll second.
We have a motion.
Brenda has to figure out how to type it up.
Send it to village board for action.
There it is. You know what I was thinking.
Now, just to be clear, that would have to, in order to stand up in court, that would have to be the building inspector noting this, not our police chief.
Correct.
Okay.
But if the building inspector can't get on the property, then, we need the lawyers to get involved in this.
We have the ability to apply for an inspection warrant. Based on the inspection warrant, I think we have enough probable cause here to enable the inspector to take photographs, ask questions, and then formulate a report to be followed by a demand letter. Not that the ordinance requires that, but most judges, whether it's a municipal judge or circuit judge, their first reaction is, why is this before me? And we present the letter saying, we have this situation where the property owner didn't even bother to show up at the plan commission meetings. And when he did show up, he made oral commitments, which people took at face value, and nothing had happened since then. And then we pursue the initiation of the complaint.
We have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action regarding landscape review of recent developments, Overstone condominiums.
So at the last plan commission meeting, as directed by the plan commission, I got in touch with Mark Berg and I let him know that the plan commission was expecting a report this month. He provided a letter, and I'll just say that I think they were appreciative of the review and called some things to their attention, and he did a further review with his own landscaper and found additional areas that Mark felt needed improvement beyond what we had noted. And he indicated in that letter that they were going to address these things over the next couple of months.
That works.
Yeah, and I can validate I think it's about 2 months ago, I think, the management company sent out an email to all the residents asking for their assistance in identifying plant materials or problem areas around their property, and they felt needed to be looked at or whatever, just to help them do a more comprehensive survey or inventory of what they've got going on over there.
Can you do something about the keys?
About what?
Your keys. They're stopping traffic.
They're trying to do something about the keys too, trust me. They've put a lot of attention and effort and time and money into trying to get rid of those keys.
They're all in my yard yesterday.
Start shooting.
Thanksgiving's coming.
I started stomping on that corner.
I'm confident that Mark will live up to what we've asked him to do and go above and beyond. Rock Point Village Apartments.
So similarly, I reached out to Rock Point Village, had a phone conversation and an email exchange with Kevin Sawal. Also appreciative that the village took a look at this and called some things to their attention. They have reviewed their site with their landscaper. Kevin sent an email saying that they're working on these items and will intend to come back with an update at the August meeting. In the phone call that I had with Kevin, he also acknowledged that the berms need to be redone and that they plan on redoing the berms, which I think kind of corroborates what you had heard from the groundskeeper, et cetera, as far as the challenges anyways. Kevin also alluded to that they might take a comprehensive look at their landscape design overall. And he wanted to know, if they wanted to change some things, i.e. adding more landscaping to their site, if they would have to come back to plan commission or not. I asked him to send me a plan to take a look at. I could help him discern that. This was, again, all on July 20th, just a little over a week ago. I haven't seen anything yet, but Kevin indicated that was his intent.
At what point then should the silt fencing come off of a property? Like around that entrance off of Main Street on the south side up along the properties line between the neighbors, Mrs. Crosby and Mr. Summers' property.
I want that silt fence in there because that keeps the dogs out.
And, well,
I know that's not intended to use.
and the other thing is, because cutting of the grass, we seem to build berms that are supposed to be aesthetically pleasing to look at, not a wild weed festival on top of them.
Yeah,
That berm should be cut mowed.
well, the trick there is, if I may interject, is that their landscape plan, as confirmed by our ecologist, their landscape plan called for low mow or no mow seed mix. We might recall there were a couple areas at Berg's development also where they're mowing those. So part of the problem is they need to take care of the weeds and let the low mow grass get established so that they don't need to cut it. But obviously, to your point, like the weeds are out of control and that never got established properly.
And I texted Kevin too, and that's what he told me, and I asked him, can't somebody go out and weed whack that?
Seriously.
Yeah, because it's shabby.
He
I
has,
saw Randy out there weed whacking. It's an option.
he has cut the grass there
He's too
3
expensive.
times since the beginning of the year. I mean, that's, and he was talking in one of his emails to me, he's trying to improve the garbage in that end of town. There's still no sign out there with an address on, and correct me if I'm wrong, that garage was supposed to be in land and stone with a number on the back.
Correct.
And none of that's happened yet. And we're looking at this and it's like the neighbors there, if we didn't cut the grass, or cut his dead tree down that's on my property line, would the village be coming over? You need to take care of this. And frankly, I think my neighbors will attest to it, getting fed up with lack of action over there. And that, to me, that has been an issue since he started. And it's not getting any better.
So, if I recall correctly, does the village not have an opportunity to go and perform that maintenance themselves and bill the customer accordingly, since they have demonstrated an unwillingness to do it themselves?
There's a procedure for that in the developer agreement where I think you give them a notice of defective work. And, you know, I think that triggers off the timeline. I don't recall off the top of my head, if it's 24, 48, or 72 hours. If they don't take care of it, then you can do it.
So I'll give you an example. When I was the treasurer of the homeowners association or the condominium owners association board of Whispering Ridge, and we had those empty lots, I very distinctly recall getting notices from the village, this board, or the board, not the planning commission, the board, saying you mow this property or we're gonna come mow it and we're gonna assess you on your tax bill for it.
Yeah, I believe that's in the ordinance here. Because that's how the Barnes property always gets cut.
Right.
And I think that's how the old Kindler property gets cut.
So we could maybe talk afterwards, because I know you were kind of giving me the no, but that's my understanding, and we, I believe, have the equipment that's very capable of doing so now.
Yes, Gary.
Well, we've gone through this in the past, and Hector can maybe confirm that, yes, we can, but we were always reluctant to go on somebody's property, because now you open your door up to, you damaged this, you did that, and all that.
Totally
So
understand.
we always went with the $100 day per diem, and you don't do it, that's it. It's the same with cutting down trees. You know, now we did cut the ones that the 10-foot rule that are overhanging the right of way. This right of way's us. But we were always very careful about going on somebody's property, even though we had the right. And so that's where that comes from.
Yeah, you create a liability.
Oh, yeah.
And that his retention on just to the east of my house, yeah, I stood on the top of that hill and looked down in it, and it looks like a black mold. Yes, that could.
One possibility might be, when there's a request for a reduction of a letter of credit to keep track
Yeah,
of this
there you go.
and refuse to reduce it. And I think in anticipation of that possibility, perhaps the plan commission can have the motion to direct the village engineer to send a letter to the developer alerting him to the deficiencies, with the understanding that if those deficiencies aren't corrected within 10 days, that the plan commission is going to recommend that there be action taken to disapprove the entire reduction of the letter of credit request when it next comes up, to account for these deficiencies.
We have a motion.
I make a motion to what Hector just said.
There. A second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to what Hector just said. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I heard Brenda take it real quickly. Say
Is that what it's gonna say in the minutes, Brenda?
That's what I was, that's what it's gonna say
Thank
in the
you.
letter.
Discussion and possible action regarding previously tabled item related to Cut and Go Tree LLC at 20275 Westwood Hope Road. He was here and I think he addressed his comments.
Still here.
Yeah, I didn't know we were gonna be on the agenda tonight. We were told that there wasn't gonna be time for us. And then, you know,
We made
here, so
time
stuck
for you.
around, so. We were told there wasn't gonna be, we got our stuff turned in a little bit late.
You're always on the agenda every month, right?
I wish.
The new
I wish
stuff,
this
the new
process
stuff.
could go a little bit quicker.
You have any comments on this situation? Bill?
Yeah, just to reiterate what was in the comments I dropped off for you, we had an exchange with their engineer about stormwater requirements yesterday. And I guess as applicant indicated, they're expecting a final draft of that stormwater management plan. When, said next week?
Possibly with the additions or changes, it's gonna be at least a week longer, so. some unexpected.
Wow, next month's gonna be a good meeting then.
We'll try to get everything early and hopefully get moved up on the agenda, but we had sent in some proposed building plans and stuff to figure, hey, if we're gonna spend 50 grand on fixing the water issue, might as well go for a building at this time too and spend $500,000.
Why not?
Get her done.
Get her done.
Yeah, so, you know, it's kind of what's gonna be coming next week. You guys don't already have the packets.
I make a motion that we table truck and go till next month.
We have a
I second.
motion and second.
Thank you for showing up.
Yeah, your continued appearances and work towards this resolution at least is very much appreciated.
Yeah, so apologize to the neighbors, it's taken so long, we put the curbing in and everything was discussed, just took it up on ourselves to do that, according to our stormwater management guy, that's been a huge help. Still a little bit getting out for sure, but.
Well, I think I speak for the planning commission and the board that we all appreciate your efforts on working with the village to get this handled. Thank you.
No problem, we just trying to push for that and try to get our building up for winter, so keep our trucks on. That's a big struggle right now. Thank you.
Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Adjournment? Motion adjourned. We have a motion and second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.
Delegate.